Hello, hello.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. Um, I didn't even know, Tiffany, I didn't even know a lot about you guys until I met you in Tampa. I don't know how that is possible. You guys are doing such huge things. And I've been researching you a little bit and talking to other people about you, and it's pretty incredible to see what you guys have been up
Thanks.
to.
Yeah, I kind of fly under the radar a little bit. I'm trying to get a little bit better about putting myself out there. But I would say about a month ago, you wouldn't have even known I ran like real estate just by following my Instagram or something. But changing that up a little bit. But yeah, it's been a pretty big year for us, that's for sure.
Well, this is all stuff I want to talk about on the show. So can we just dig right on in?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about that. Why have you flown under the radar? Why was it sounds like that was a conscious decision?
Um, so obviously growing up in the industry the last 5 years, I've been in multiple masterminds, multiple education groups. And one thing I just didn't like seeing as I was kind of raised in the industry was, people would like oversell events. They would throw as many people as they could into a mastermind. They didn't really have the right fulfillment. And I just never wanted to be that. And really education didn't originally start because I had this passion to go impact people. It started because people started coming to me saying, hey, how do we grow our company like you? So then I said, hey, I got to value my time. So I put together my first product, which was the virtual group. And I said, hey guys, I can help you. If at least 10 of you guys want to join this, I'll only charge $1,000. And, I only teach experienced investors. So if $1,000 is nothing to these guys. And I'm just super transparent, like showed them my entire system front to back for $1,000. I still do that today. And it got them such good results that they kept coming back to me for more. And then that really drove that passion inside of me. And ever since 2 years ago when we started it, I just told myself, hey, if I focus on their results and they get results, this should spread on its own. And not that I won't ever do marketing or, something else new to grow it someday. I just knew that I wanted a good baseline and foundation in the company before I went and skyrocketed it with, paid ads or things that other people do. And I'm just this big believer that like, I don't want to be the Ford Focus of the industry. I want to be the Ferrari, and people that buy Ferraris know other people that buy Ferraris. And that's just how it's grown for 2 years. So not to say that can sustain itself, but that's just how it's, God's treated us well over the last couple of years, as long as we've gotten people results. So
Guys, we're talking with Tiffany High. Josh can't join us today, but hopefully I can get Josh on maybe a separate time to kind of get his perspective.
For sure.
But I want to get your perspective. Sounds like you really haven't even been doing real estate for that long a period of time either. What has led to your success so quickly?
Yeah, so it's been almost 5 years now, 4.5 years. I was actually in the corporate space. I was the manager over division in a roofing company, a global roofing company. And I didn't actually leave my career because I hated it. I actually loved my job. I loved everything about it. But I was traveling out of state 5 nights a week. And my brother at the time had been diagnosed with cancer, and he was only 17 years old. And he ended up getting put into Nationwide Children's for over a year. While I had gone to visit him only on Sundays when I could because I was traveling so much, I had younger brothers and sisters, and I was like, I'll never be able to be a good parent if this ever happened to me someday, because I'm on the road, I'm living this big corporate life. And even when I'm on the road for corporate life, like I was working until 10 p.m. every night. And ultimately, my parents, when he had cancer, never left Nationwide Children's for over 300 days. And I was like, how are they able to do this and still run like 3 to 4 other successful companies? Because they're entrepreneurs. And so watching that happen and evolve over a few hundred days, I thought to myself, like, it wasn't necessarily I left my job to go be an entrepreneur. I just left it and looking for something that would allow me to be a mom someday, So I woke up on Good Friday of May of 2017, and I literally walked into my job and was just like, I remember looking at him across the table saying, hey, this is what's happening in my family. I have no idea what I'm doing next, but I just know I can't continue this. I took a leap of faith, and I remember looking at him being like, if I fail, I hope you guys take me back. But anyways, I ended up quitting that day. I was actually a private lender back then for a flipper in town. And so I called him one day and said, hey, can I visit one of the rehabs I'm lending on? Walked it, and I had him walk me through the numbers. So he taught me how he bought the house, how much money he put into it, and then how he flipped it, and he's making 80 grand. And I was like, hey man, no disrespect against you, but if you can do this, I can do this too. And so I said, how did you learn this? And he pointed me into an education program he had. I joined it. Took me 6 months of miserably failing to get my first deal. Spent thousands and thousands of dollars blowing it because I was horrible back then. Anyways, I get my first deal, and it really brought my confidence back up. I made 18 grand on that first deal. And once you get your confidence on that first deal, I just, skyrocketed. So we did about 40 rehabs our first year. I ran into, once we you got the first deal, for the next 12 months, we did 40 rehabs. And then really from there, I did everything my mentors told me not to do, paid contractors in advance, got burned, got lied to. And then I was like, this is not for me. Like, it didn't matter how much money was being made. I was like, I hated it. So I ran into a good friend of mine in the market now, and he was like, well, you should be wholesaling. I didn't even know what wholesaling was. So I went to an event. I remember sitting in the second row, and everyone's throwing around this word assignment. And I'm like, what the hell is an assignment? So I raise my hand. I go, what does this assignment word mean? And everyone just dies laughing at me. And it's funny because that was 4 years ago. It was at one of the all-in events. It was their second event they ever had. And everyone's dying laughing. And they go, yeah, you can put this house in contract and literally sell that piece of paper and make a spread. And I was like, wow, this is the best thing I've ever heard. And I had 5 houses in contract to rehab at the time. I went back from that event. I made $250,000 wholesaling those 5 deals.
What?
Yeah. And from there, I did 165 wholesales the next 12 months. And, and then every year, obviously just has its lessons, right? You learn wholesaling, then you learn all the mistakes you make there, and you rebuild your foundation. And, obviously I'm not scared to take action. And really that's got us to where we're at. I mean, we learned how to fail super fast in order to keep progressing.
Yes. Yeah, which is super important. Not just failing, but failing fast so that and that you can improve, or for some people, just this is not for me, and they can just get out and be done with it.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something, the very beginning. You were already a private lender when you had a full-time job before you really got full-time into real estate. How did you become a private lender? How did you learn about that?
So I have a cousin that was a full-time flipper. And he pitched private lending to me, my cousins, my aunt and uncles. And I used to get, your yearly corporate bonuses. Not like I had a ton of money, right? But I said, yeah, he showed me his credibility packet, did his pitch, and I landed on my first deal with him. I think I was a private lender for him for at least 2 years leading into that. And I just remember getting 1% a month on my money. And, I was only 25 or when I started, 27, maybe started lending. And that's a big deal when you're that age and you can make like a couple, $8,000 to $12,000 in interest that year of cash. And so that's how I learned about private money. And, ever since then, it became a core strength of mine when I started rehabbing, because now I've raised millions of dollars myself.
How much did you put in that first investment?
I think it was like either $16,000 or $25,000. It wasn't a whole lot of money.
So what made you comfortable to do that with something that for some might seem risky, especially coming from, a family member where I don't know what your relationship's like with some of your family members, but some of my family, it's like, I don't want to lend to that guy. I don't know what that, do they really have the track record? I want to kind of know all these things. What made you even take that leap of faith?
I don't think it was necessarily a leap of faith. You know, I ran 16 asphalt plants in a division of people. So I knew that everything's about the numbers, the data, and the facts. And, you know, he clearly helped me understand that he was buying an asset bought at a discount and that I was holding a mortgage against the property. And so I can either look at it like I can go put this money in the stock market, which a lot of people do. And especially at my age, then I had a lot of friends doing penny stocks and stock trading and all that. But I mean, you know how it is. Biden can raise his hand today and say something and the market can crash for 24 hours. Like that doesn't happen in real estate. You're backed by a tangible asset that I can physically go see no matter what Biden decides to say tomorrow, or Trump or whoever. And so I just, you know, I looked at the facts and I lended on it based on data and facts. And I've been doing well in private lending ever since.
And it sounds to me like, well, obviously that experience has served you well, not just in learning about flipping a house, but also you just got done saying that you have also raised a lot of money for your deals as well. Is it just, it's all fact-based, it's all fact-driven, data-driven? Not everyone has that kind of brain where that's the most important thing, but for you, that's what was. Is that how you kind of talk to your private lenders?
Yeah, I always tell my students and my friends this, that every day, every conversation I have, top of mind is raising money. So for example, let's say I have a friend or industry friend that takes me to their lake house party and half the people I don't know. When they introduce me, hey, this is Tiffany, and that person says, oh, what do you do for a living? My pitch is always, oh, I raise money from people just like you and me. They hold they lend against my property. They act as the bank and a mortgage is recorded. I buy it at a discount to the market. I add value to it, flip it, and make a profit. This year on average, I'm making $23,000 a deal. I've done hundreds of deals this year. And that's what I do for a living. And then of course, if I were them, most of them are like, wow, tell me more about that. Because when I say, oh, I make $23,000 a deal and I've done hundreds of them, they do the math in their head. And anyone who has money is going to want to understand more. And so I try not to be a pitch fest. So what I do is, I tell them more about flipping if they ask about that. But if they ask about private money and they've never done it, hey, I have this credibility packet. It literally spells out private money 101. I'm happy to email it to you. You can take a read. I'm happy to answer any questions at another date. Because the last thing I want to do is like be pitching them on the spot when they're a new contact for me. So I'm very subtle with it. And I have a whole like process to how I get them that credibility packet. And then I follow up 1 or 2 weeks later, and it's very subtle.
Tiffany, you quit your job. You had a lot of success pretty quickly, even though the first 6 months you learned a lot, you failed a lot, you spent a lot of money to kind of get to where you are. Does it take a certain type of person, a certain type of personality? You're coaching, you obviously see some of these people who are successful and some may not. Are there commonalities before you ever had success in real estate? Are there commonalities in personality, demeanor, whatever it might be, traits, characteristics in people that would tend to kind of maybe think that they're going to be a little bit more, predict their success rate?
My personal opinion is yes. Here's the thing. You can go to a Tony Robbins event, you can watch a seminar, and you can do whatever and be motivated. You can get motivated by someone for 24 hours, but you can't have someone else motivate you. You have to be a self-motivated person. You have to have a level of confidence to where probably more than likely any very successful entrepreneur bet on themselves their entire life. From the time they were 5, 15, they believed in themselves, and someone else around them was probably telling them they believe in them, or it was the complete opposite where they were surrounded by something that they never wanted to become when they got older. So they did something to be the 180 of that. And I also think that ultimately it's, I think the entrepreneur, the visionary part of running a company has to be a driver typically. I mean, they're not afraid to fail. I always tell this analogy to some people, 90% of the world, we're encouraged to go to college. We go to college, we graduate with $50,000 to $100,000 in debt. Yet we think that, we're still successful. But when someone starts a company and they're afraid to lose it all, like, what does it matter? 90% of the world is literally coming out of something, not just with nothing, but severely in debt that they're going to pay for the rest of their lives. So what's the difference? Who gives a shit how much money you lose, what you lose, because there is always an option to have a roof on your back somehow, some way. And people that truly believe in themselves, they know that failing will happen. It is an option. And if it happens, who cares? Because typically a solid entrepreneur who can last 5+ years, it's bound to happen, right? Like, I had a year where I broke even and almost lost money, even though I did 100 deals, because I had paid a contractor in advance, ended up in a lawsuit, whatever. That didn't stop me from moving forward. That didn't stop me from having almost a $5 million year this year. And never along the way was I scared to fail again. And I think you might see people enter the industry or any other industry being an entrepreneur, and you might get started, but that's why 1% survived past 5 years, because, something goes wrong and they're afraid to fail, or they have a family member, they're surrounded by people that don't encourage them to keep going. Mm-hmm. One thing I've learned along the way is I don't even care if you're family. If you do not encourage me or you're not a positive influence in my life, you will be removed. It doesn't matter if you're my best friend, my parents, my cousin, whatever. Like, I just don't surround myself with that. And I think that's really what pushes me forward, to be honest.
And I can tell by just kind of speaking with you for 15 minutes now, I can already kind of tell you have a very specific personality, a very specific, I think that lends itself well to entrepreneurship. So I kind of agree with you that people who kind of have it in you, you're kind of born with it. But I also think it can be taught. It can be learned. It just takes a lot to unwind and unpack some of these mental challenges. You just got done logically talking about why they don't make any sense, but they're still there. And 90%, whatever it is of the population, struggles with that because it's been programmed inside of us for so long.
Yeah, I think what I've seen, in my education program, we don't currently work with newbies. So we have 400 to 500 students that came into our program already doing deals on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. And I typically see one or two things. Someone comes in and they have the smarts, they understand the systems, the process, and can do all that. And then there's this leadership capability that a lot of people lack. And that's getting people to do what you need them to do and bringing out the best in them. And that's a whole different level of leadership. That person that can do that doesn't necessarily need to understand all the systems and marketing and how things twist and turn. The biggest thing I see companies lack is the ability to grow other people. And you can only get so far in entrepreneurship if you can't scale other leaders. And I think that one thing our industry is famous for is 1 to 3 man shows, because a lot of these seminars and education, they're teaching you how to close a deal, how you launch a list, you do this, you. Very few teach you how to grow leaders underneath of you. And so as I came through the 5 years of growing up in this industry, I recognized that. And so I said, if I put together an education program, I'm not going to teach you how to do it. I'm only going to bring you into my program if you already know the basics of those trinkets. I'm going to show you how to groom the leaders underneath of you, because you aren't going anywhere without it. So ultimately, that's been our biggest core focus in our program, is how do we teach you to groom other leaders? Because I only want people under to be, I like spending my time with people that are really, truly dedicated to people. And the people's honestly the hardest part of entrepreneurship. It really is.
For sure. No, I agree. So let's dig into this, because this is awesome. A huge portion of the folks who listen to us and watch this show are folks that have done a deal, maybe done a few deals, but they lack consistency in their efforts. And I'm sure that those are the types of people that you see from a coaching standpoint that you see most often, folks that lack consistency. Tiffany, in your opinion, or with the data, what are you seeing when people kind of enter your program or enter your ecosystem? What are you seeing as kind of like the commonalities, the common mistakes they're making? Is it just people, or are there more things that we could talk about?
Yeah, I see a couple common things that come to mind. Lack of consistency sometimes relates to lack of confidence. So there's two ends to specifically wholesaling, flipping, real estate in general. You got your marketing, right? Marketing is what produces the lead. The sales team's what lands the deal. And if you can't get those two down, the rest of the company doesn't matter. So there's no use in spending time talking about that if we can't get these two pieces down. Marketing obviously is expensive. And a lot of people's mindset is afraid to spend money. The stats say, right, any bigger player is going to tell you that marketing should produce, at least a 4 to 5x ROI. If you look at the stats, and I tell every student this, one thing I'm known for is being transparent. I open my books and I say, as of today, for the last 2 years, I'll give you an example. Cold calling, on average, by the time they raise their hand, they want to sell their house, it gets sent into my system. It takes us 160, I think 6 days right now, to land that deal in contract. We put it in contract. It takes us 30 days to make money if it's an assignment, and another 4 months, let's say, if it's a rehab. So now all of a sudden I'm at almost like an 8 to 12 month turn to make money. Not everyone can live that turnout. And so they spend the money, they don't get instant results, they get scared, and then they dabble in marketing. Dabbling does not equal results. You have to send marketing consistently to get consistent results. Then what I see is, in my opinion, marketing's the easy part. Anyone can get leads, or they can go hire some other company to bring them the leads, right? Then they go half-ass training salespeople. They hand them a script, and then, they may practice it or role play it. But typically the person who's good at getting the systems launched and understanding the trinkets doesn't have the experience or understanding of what it takes to truly manage, onboard, train, and lead a sales team. And in any company, it doesn't matter if it's real estate, roofing, whatever, if you can't scale a sales team, where are you going? Like, what's the plan, right? Because sales is the bread and butter of any company. So what I see is they might have like 1 or 2 people. Most people come into the program and none of their salespeople are consistent and predictable. They don't have metrics they're held accountable on a daily basis. They don't have daily sales training. They might have put them through a 1 or 2 day onboarding session. They should be thoroughly onboarding them for 90 days. They just aren't investing into their people. And without investing into their people, they're not going to get consistency on putting houses in contract. And we all know that one lost opportunity in real estate is 30, 40, 50 grand. So they get scared to not only invest in themselves to become the sales leader, but if you aren't the sales leader, that's okay. We go into a program where they can teach you to be the sales leader and train your sales team in the meantime, because you're doing yourself an injustice if you go blow 30, 40 grand on marketing, but yet you got 1 or 2 salespeople that are half-assed being led. So I kind of went on a rant there, but hopefully that answers some questions.
No, you gave me some other topics I want to bring up. It sounds to me like what you're saying is, first of all, let's build a business, like a true business, not let's just dabble in a hobby, which is probably the folks that are coming to you or folks that have a hobby, generally speaking.
Correct.
They think they have a business, but they don't. What you guys are doing is teaching people how to turn what they're doing into a business. But what I'm hearing you say is, you got to be in it for the long haul. You need like a long runway, it sounds like, to 90 days to onboard somebody. If you're doing cold calling, it sounds like 10 to 12 months before I'm going to see revenue from that come to fruition. So I need a long runway if I'm going to invest in building a business. Is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
I'm a firm believer, after being in this long enough, if you're getting into what we do, it'll take a solid, let's just say you're starting from scratch, day one. My personal opinion is it's going to take a minimum of 6 to 12 months to even get to have consistent performing months, because every one of those marketing channels takes time to become consistent. And eventually you start landing so many deals off of follow-up, because there's a high percentage of your deals will come off of follow-up.
For sure. So
your queue needs to get stacked. So that's why I've only personally trained very few newbies from scratch. And typically the ones that I'm willing to train are because they have the money to actually truly start this company and be successful. And or they ran another company, they sold it, they got the money. And I'm like, all right, you understand what it takes to groom people. You also understand another thing that I see people come in is they have 1 or 2 or even 3-man sales shows, and they're so reliant on one person on their sales team that if one person leaves their company, they're hurt. I will not allow that to happen. Yeah. So, I mean, it's happened to all of us, right? We're scared to let someone go, no matter if they're not a culture fit, they're causing problems, they're not performing, because we're scared of losing the revenue. If there's one lesson I've learned over the last 2 years is fire fast. Like if anyone can hear that, fire fast.
And Tiffany, that goes back to, everything that you were saying earlier about this long runway. It's going to take 6 to 12 months to build this thing. To fire somebody, what you just said is so scary for the 1 and 2 and 3-man shows, 3-person shows, because that person leaves, even though they may, they're not a good fit, that they should leave. But if they do, I gotta find somebody else. I gotta train them, and now that's going to extend my runway even longer to revenue. But in order to build a true business, it's so funny to me now that you're saying this. It's all kind of making a lot more sense. It's funny to me when people start investing in a franchise or a business, like they get it. They're trying to get a startup off the ground, that it's going to take capital, it's going to take effort, it's going to take all these things. But in wholesaling, and specifically wholesaling in real estate, it's like all these gurus are teaching, well, you can just go out there, you can do it fastest way to get a deal. You can get a deal in 30 days, get a deal in 45 days. And that's cool. But it's almost as if you're setting that person up for failure long-term.
Yeah. That's why, I just know the reality of running this business and how expensive it is. If I ever teach newbies, I think one thing that I will do, because I was in corporate life. I had a very good job. I love my career, and not everyone needs to leave their career. But if I would have done even one house a quarter on the side of my corporate job, it would have changed my life. It would have changed the trajectory of my life. And I think that ultimately, I think that's very doable. I think that now I understand I can physically go to the courthouse. I can literally take out files for free. I can look up who's in foreclosure or, anything that hits the courthouse, and I can door knock them. My first year in real estate, by the way, where I did 40 rehabs, guess what I did? I did door knocking, and I only had one list. It was the foreclosure list that I would go get from the court. I would hand skip trace them, hand dial them, and hand text them. And I made $1 million in revenue without a CRM, without any of this. I was a problem solver for these people and got rewarded for providing them a solution to get them to the next step in their life. And so can someone else. They don't need to leave their career to do that.
So I was literally just about to ask you, because you're sitting here talking about cold calling. Cold calling is all the buzz, and it has been for quite some time. A lot of folks get started cold calling. I hate it. I think a very small percentage of people, when you're just getting started, it's you. 10 to 15%, in my opinion, are good cold callers. They don't get discouraged by all the hangups. I hate outbound marketing. I'm a big inbound marketing fan. You're saying cold calling for you guys 10 to 12 months to see revenue. What is something that you're doing marketing wise that is a shorter runway, maybe talking to that newer person right now that needs some revenue now so that they can create a longer runway to build things the right way? What are some shorter types of things that we can work on as far as marketing goes?
So I do it all, by the way. I'm actually very heavy on outbound marketing and inbound. I'm probably one of the heaviest on outbound in the industry. But keep in mind, guys, I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. So 80% of my deals come from follow-up. I don't land most of my deals on the first call or anything. If I could go back, I probably would have spent and invested the money on an already stacked list. There's companies out there that do that. They're expensive. I would have direct mailed it, and I would have done the direct mail game. But what I see a lot of times is someone that's new is they might spend like $1,000 or $500 on direct mail. Like that's just not going to work, right? Because like one deal is $20,000 to $30,000, and if you need to spend probably 20% in marketing of your projected revenue. So if your goal is to make 100 grand, more than likely you better be spending 20. And then I always see these people come in, I'm going to make 100 grand a month, and I spend 5 grand in marketing. Like, bro, I don't know who in the industry told you that was possible, but it's not. Like, it might get you at 1 month, but they ain't doing it for 12 months in a row. Like, I don't know where these people get these thought processes. And in my opinion, I think too many gurus in the industry are getting people to like chase this concept in their life. And that's why I refuse to do it.
Tiffany, I love this. You're preaching to the choir right now. And I interview so many people, and you're really the only one who has said it like this. And that's obviously why you've been successful in such a short period of time. 40 deals, 40 rehabs in your first year. That's in 40 rehabs for someone who's seasoned is a lot. Are these like, how are you able to do that? Are these high-end? Are these turnkey type of rehabs? What types of rehabs are they? How are you able to do 40 of these in your first year?
Well, I almost went bald. But in the 40 rehabs, we did do some gut rehabs. I don't do gut rehabs now for a reason. I hate them. I actually, I'll never forget, I was about on the 40th rehab. I, by the way, lost 106 grand on one of the first rehabs I ever did. And I was sitting at my dining room table, which I was more embarrassed than ever. And I called my parents with my future husband and said, I only have $20,000 left. I might go broke. I'm going to move in. And my dad says, hang up the phone. He told me to walk into another room. I call him back and he goes, Tiffany, you've already learned too many lessons. You already know the answers and you're going to keep going. I know that you are at the brink of just the start of your success. So I said, all right. I woke up the next day and in my mind, I thought I have no other option, right? I just did 40 rehabs and I have nothing to show for it because I learned all these dumb lessons and didn't listen to my mentors. And I woke up, had no other option. I think we did about 7 deals the next month and made like 100 grand in 1 month. And that was my first time really doing that in 1 month. But when you have no other option but to succeed, a whole nother level comes out of you of motivation. You either give up or you keep going forward. It's one or the other. And, you know, my dad fortunately believed in me, told me to keep going. So did my husband. So I was surrounded by positive influence and we kept going and we just took off. And we did, I don't even know how much money we did the next year, but we did about 165 wholesales. And one big mistake I made that second year is that, you know, everyone who starts as a rehabber, they have lessons learned, every single one of them. And they try to then go to wholesaling like I did as the answer. And I just cold turkey stopped rehabbing for a year. So I did 165 transactions. Then I realized I had 2 buyers primarily that I was selling like, you know, 30 plus deals each to. And they were rehabs that were like, you know, paint, countertops, and floors. And so I did an audit. I was like sitting down one day and I said, man, I really gave up rehabbing. I want to go see what these guys sold these houses for that I sold them to. I mean, they had to make like 40 to 60 grand a pop on every one of those rehabs. And I just sat there and I thought, wow, I just gave up $2 million from my own queue because I'm scared. And I knew then I had to stop playing scared. So for the third year, I went back to rehabbing and wholesaling. And I realized I'm really good at turnkey, more type of renos, you know, $40,000 and under renos. So that's my buy box. And anything outside of 40 to 50 grand max, I wholesale.
I got to go back to your dad. This is, you have had something that I think a lot of people I talk to just don't have. When you were telling that story, I literally thought you were about to say, and he's going to tell you to give up. He's going to tell you, you tried this long enough and now it's time to go back to your job that you're doing well at. He did the opposite. And you said earlier, he's an entrepreneur too. So it makes a little bit more sense, but he saw something in you, obviously, that gave him confidence in you. What is that? What is that inside of you that he saw?
I mean, my whole life, the one thing that, you know, everyone's parents kind of have, you always remember your parents from something. Like typically always they remember a couple words they can describe each one of their parents by. All growing up, when we walked out of the door every morning, he said, always remember to bet on yourself. That's all he always said. And so my whole life, my subconscious mind is I believe in myself before I'll put my life on someone else's shoulder. And I believed in myself. I believed in my ability to take action. So that wasn't the problem. I just, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's real estate or something else. Every time we enter into something new, there's so much to learn. We just don't know what we don't know. Right. And that's why people need to hire mentors. So if there's one massive mistake I made in the beginning was I wish I would have either brought the deal to somebody already experienced and then JV'd with them. I didn't even care if I give them all a profit. I just need to learn the system. Once I understand the system, then I can keep going. But instead, even though I joined an education program, it wasn't really hands-on. And when you're talking about rehabbing, I mean, there's a lot more risk in rehabbing than wholesaling. And I just made some really expensive mistakes, and I'm really stubborn. So I decided to file lawsuits that went nowhere. And that was another lesson learned.
Lots of lessons that we learn. And that's the interesting thing about your story is that you have all these lessons, but you actually learned from them. You didn't just let them go by the wayside. You learned from them and achieved. So I want to continue talking. We're going to go for maybe 5 or 10 more minutes. I want to continue talking to that person who's kind of stuck with that inconsistency. You said, I want to, kind of repeat some stuff that you said. It's a sales and marketing business, first and foremost. Sales and marketing are your keys. Marketing is the lifeblood. Okay. And then sales are going to get the job done, get everything closed. Is there anything else that we're missing? Any keys to hiring when you're a one-man operation, one-woman operation? Any keys to hiring these specific? How do we set our marketing in place? Who do we hire for a salesperson? Is it us in the beginning? How do we kind of get kind of that ball rolling?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. It just depends on the skill set of the entrepreneur who starts the company, because typically they're either really good at systematic stuff or they're a really good salesperson. They're normally like one or the other. So if you're really good at bringing revenue in, the first thing you need to do is get an admin. That's my personal opinion. I was very good at sales. So I hired an admin from day one. She's been with me ever since I literally brought her into my basement and started working with her. And everything that I have seen over time is I delegate. I don't pick up my dog poop. I don't grocery shop. I don't clean. I literally do nothing that doesn't produce money. And I've had that mindset since day one. And that's the one thing I listened to from my mentor was, if it doesn't bring money in it, delegate it. So that's what I've done ever since. If it doesn't bring money in it, I delegate it. And now literally every hour, typically of my business, I'm making money some way, somehow. And I've been doing that since day one. And I encourage anyone else to do it. Now, let's say you're the systems operations person and you're horrible at sales. Well, I hate to break it to you, but if you don't go get trained in being good at sales, partner with someone or find someone that's really damn good at it, good luck growing your company. Because that's where I see a lot of people falter, is they might be the brains, but in my opinion, they might be a good COO for someone else who's the visionary. That's what I've seen a lot. But let's say they do find someone that can run sales and they get fortunate. Like for me, Josh, my husband, he runs the sales program and he also trains and grows other people's sales teams on their companies. So he took over that. I raised the money on the systems, the marketing, all that. So if you have a partnership that's solid, great, but they're typically two different skill sets. And so you really need to delegate and outsource the opposite of what you're good at.
You are so self-aware of who you are and what you're good at, down to the fact that you know that you shouldn't even be the one picking up your own dog poop. So that's incredible self-awareness. How do we get that? How do we know who we are, which camp we fit in? Or what if we already know that we're neither, or that we're both, which is probably a little bit more rare. How do we figure out who we are?
I see a lot of people that might be conflicted on who they are because they give a shit what everyone else thinks. I have never given a shit what anyone else thinks. I keep my head down. I stay focused and I focus on the prize. And I think a lot of people that come into any business or job or any role, they don't have clarity on who they even are, what they're good at, because they want to be or worry about what other people care about them, what they see, what other people see them as. Dude, if you give a shit what other people think, you ain't going anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're working at McDonald's, be confident when you walk up to that stand and take money. And I just think that ultimately, if you can have confidence and build that level of confidence in yourself, which I think comes through your faith personally, I think that you find more clarity, because when you stand up and you're confident in something, that means like you have a little bit more clarity on what am I good at and what am I not. And it's not even about like what you're good at. I'm good at a lot of things. That doesn't mean I enjoy doing them. So one thing I've learned over the last 5 years is, building a business, you got to do a lot of things you don't like in the beginning. But if you stay focused and understand and write down all those things that, hey, I can do, but I don't enjoy, then compile those and start hiring, so that make sure that the person you hire has those strengths and that they're not the replica of who you are.
Tiffany, I want to get you out of here on this one. You've brought up that word confidence in 3 or 4 different answers that you've given. Obviously, you think that that's an incredibly important piece to this whole thing, to success, it sounds like. In my opinion, confidence is, it's so important, and building that, small wins, a lot of small wins are super important, especially, you mentioned cold calling. A lot of folks who get started start cold calling. That is like the ultimate confidence killer, cold calling. That's why I hate people doing that when they're brand new, my opinion. What is it about confidence? How can we gain that confidence that you're talking about so that we can be successful?
I look back, I actually had this conversation yesterday with someone. When I look at the times when I was the least confident, I was insecure, didn't understand where I was going, was when I was so focused on the end result. So like some people come into this, I want to make $1 million, I want to make 5 million, or I can do this. And then every day they wake up and their head spins in circles, and then you never take the first step. So now what I do is I focus on loving the process. And guess what it takes? I don't even care if you're trying to make $1 million, 2 million, you're trying to lose 20 pounds, whatever it is. You guess what it takes to get there? The first step is you got to wake your ass up at 5 a.m. because everyone else is sleeping until 7 or 8. And the people sleeping until 7 or 8, you're fucking getting in 3 hours more a day than they are. Add that up over the course of a year. And then at the end of the year, ask them, well, this is why I'm 10 steps ahead of you. When you start taking that 5 a.m. step and then you eat the apple instead of the pizza, and then you do this and you end the day and you're like, I just had these 5 wins today. That's the first step to getting any type of result. You just focus on the process. It's day by day, hour by hour. And I actually learned that from being in a program with Jesse Itzler. I'm not sure if you follow Jesse Itzler. I was in a health program with him, and he, a self-made billionaire. The way that he coached us was you could only focus on the next 10-day chunk. He called them chunks. So he would say, okay, for the next 10 days, you have to drink a gallon of water a day, and you have to run an hour for 45 minutes. Great. The next 10 days, you had to take the hour running and the gallon of water, and you had to add a salad a day. And each chunk, he added something on, and it made it so easy. So by the end of the 90 days, like I had never ran a mile in my life, and I ran for 4 hours straight after only 90 days of training. Like, how is that possible? So because he only had us focus on the day-to-day 10-day chunks. And when all you have to think about is achieving something in 10 days, you don't get caught up in the year, 5-year, 10-year, more than likely unrealistic goal. And you just feel like you're winning constantly. And when you have that win, you build this level of confidence. And next thing you know, you do something you never thought you could do in your life. Once you do one thing you never thought you could do, dude, it's history from there. Like, you'll keep going.
I'm a huge Jesse Itzler fan, like man crush level Jesse Itzler fan for sure. I met him about 5 years ago. It was absolutely incredible. But you also mentioned that process word, and I know you're in Ohio, and I don't know if you're a sports person or not, but you mentioned process. I think of Nick Saban. I think of he talks about the process. It's a process. You focus on each play is its own. You don't ever look at the scoreboard. It's each play is its own thing, and that's kind of what you're talking about right there.
Yep. Yeah. And as you grow in the industry, I think a lot of people compare themselves to where people are at. Yeah. And that's why a lot of people that follow me, although they see glimpses of inside my office and they know we do big volume and all these things, you never really see me just every day pounding numbers, pounding stats every day, because that's not what it's about. There's a process to getting to that $1 million mark. There's a process that you have to do. So when I'm out putting myself out there, I'm always focused on showing people that whoever the hell is telling you this isn't a grind for 5 years, get out, because you aren't going to be here in 5 years. Like, it's just not reality. So I'm going to show you the reality of what it takes to be sustained for 5, 10, 20 years. And so I think that that's why, like, when you said, how do you fly under the radar? People might know we do Valium, but I try to, like, I don't want to get people to have that sense of anxiety that I had when I was following some of the big guys in the industry my first 2 years, because all I was doing was thinking, oh my God, how am I not them yet? How am I not them? They're putting these cars out there, these numbers, these $1 million months. Like, how does that happen? Instead of them teaching me what the hell it actually took every day to get there.
Yeah. Tiffany High. Tiffany, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you or how they can learn more about your coaching or whatever it might be. How can people get into your ecosystem?
Well, you can go to tiffanyandjoshhigh.com and find out about our virtual group training. Or you can follow me on social media. My Instagram handle is Tiffany High Official. And you can follow me on Facebook at Tiffany High, but tiffanyandjoshhigh.com is our website.
I'll put, guys, I'm going to put all that in the show notes, all that in the description below. Click on that. Give Tiffany some love. Show her some love. Tell her that we sent you over there. Follow her on Instagram. And if you're interested in taking your business to the next level, guys, we've had, you're a faithful listener to this show. We've had so many people on this show, and I don't know that anyone has come with this kind of value. So, Tiffany, I don't know a lot about you before today, but I'm already a gigantic fan, and I'm appreciative that you came on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.